Good evening and welcome to Poland Daily News. I'm Nicholas Richardson. Military police have found the body of a Polish soldier in Braniewo in northeast Poland. According to Giertych Daily, the soldier died on the 4th of June and authorities kept silent until now because of the European parliamentary election campaign. Since the beginning of March, 7 Polish soldiers have lost their lives. This is only the beginning of the investigation into the death of a 44-year-old soldier from Braniewo. For now, everything points to suicide, but investigators do not rule out other possibilities. At present, the procedural activities performed do not indicate that third parties contributed to the death. However, evidentiary proceedings are continuing in the case and evidence is still being collected. This is the 7th fatal casualty of a Polish soldier since the beginning of March. This black series began with the fatal crushing of 2 soldiers at the Land Forces Training Center in Drawsko-Pomorskie. Another 2 soldiers from the Tarnowskie Góry Chemical Regiment died at the end of March in another accident at the training ground in Solania. In April, a Spanish soldier, a participant in the NATO exercises organised in Poland, was also killed at the training ground in Bamowo-Piskie. The current tragic events are completely not accidental and are a consequence of this hybrid war that Putin and Lukashenko are waging against the West. On the 28th of May, in a direct clash with the enemy, 21-year-old Sergeant Mateusz Sitek, a soldier from the 1st Warsaw Armoured Brigade, was attacked with a knife. The aggressor, reaching through the fence, stabbed the soldier in the chest.
Polska musi dołożyć wszelkich starań.
Poland must make every effort. The Polish state should use all possible means to ensure that the perpetrator of this murder is caught, detained and properly punished. This is a matter of our Polish raison d'etat. At the same time, shocking information also came to light about the arrest and handcuffing of other Polish soldiers who fired warning shots at the immigrants who were attacking them and, according to military police, overstepped their mandate. Telewizja Republika on the conservative side of Polish politics came to their defence. The soldier has a gun to use it. There are regulations and all the conditions for using this weapon have been fulfilled here. However, Deputy Minister of National Defence Paweł Zalewski is against the use of weapons by soldiers guarding the Polish border. The point is not to let immigrants in, not to shoot them. If someone really imagines that our task should be to shoot immigrants, as the Confederacja wants, then they want a war with Belarus. However, the latest IBRIS survey for Giertych clearly shows that 9 out of 10 Poles believe that if migrants forcefully cross the border, Polish soldiers should shoot without fear of legal consequences. Poles strongly support the armed forces that defend the eastern border. According to public opinion polls, 86% support the use of weapons on the Polish-Belarusian border. They know that the pressure from migrants is the result of a hybrid war on the part of Belarus and Russia. Poles demand that soldiers have a chance not only to defend the border, but also their lives and health. This was investigated by Edyta Hołdyńska. Clarifying the regulations regarding the use of weapons would avoid the detention of soldiers on the Polish-Belarusian border. Meanwhile, the Ministry of National Defence is afraid of the relaxation of procedures, arguing that it may lead to an escalation of the conflict. What is it really like? I'm checking. A soldier has the tools to defend himself and us. Poles have no doubt that soldiers should use weapons when migrants attempt to cross the border by force. These are the results of a study conducted by IBRIS on behalf of Giertych. As many as 85.7% approve of more stringent border defence by the army. Of the respondents, only 10.7% are against it, and 3.6% have no opinion. Here we have a draft bill amending the Homeland Defence Act and certain other acts. If soldiers use weapons in order to repel an attack on the inviolability of the state border by a person, the soldier does not commit a crime.
Żołnierz nie popełni przestępstwa.
It's just that our soldiers aren't dying today. It is necessary to clarify the rules on the use of weapons by the army at the border so that no one misinterprets them. When does a soldier have the right to shoot without being arrested? I would like the entire political class to speak with one voice. Soldiers have the right to shoot at an aggressor who attacks them with a dangerous weapon. If they do not do this, they risk their lives and health and that of all of us. You have to shoot first in the air, first at your feet, but you have to shoot. That's what the gun is for. The issue of the use of weapons by soldiers in the country is currently regulated by several laws. The Homeland Defence Act states that the armed forces have the right to use measures of direct coercion, use firearms and other weapons to ensure the security and inviolability of the state's borders. Soldiers serving on the border were delegated there to help ensure the inviolability of the state border. Officers may use firearms in a situation where there is a direct, unlawful attack on, among others, life, health, freedom, of the entitled person or another person, important objects, devices or areas, or inviolability of the state border. And the fact that we have, to put it bluntly, a hybrid war on the border was talked about during today's Bucharest 9 summit in Riga.
Is seeing once again the organization of migration with the use of illegal migration pressure, artificially introduced by Kremlin as part of the hybrid operation. We are aware.
And defending this border is necessary to ensure our security. The European Parliament elections in Poland had a local dimension. The fight for votes further weakened the shaky coalition that took power on the symbolic day of the 13th of December. As part of the election campaign, the victorious Civic Coalition attacked activists from Poland 2050, whose support is crucial for the stability of the government. On the one hand, the triumphant politicians of the Liberal Party call their coalition partners appetizers and plan to consume them. On the other hand, activists of smaller parties are threatening to leave the coalition and deprive Donald Tusk of the Prime Minister's seat. Adrian Borecki follows the twisting path of Polish politics. A good result for Donald Tusk's parties in Sunday's election may mean one thing for his coalition partners: marginalisation. Before the autumn elections, the Third Way promised its voters changes in health insurance premiums. Months have passed and no new regulations have been adopted. This is a policy that we must implement, and there is no point in us being in a coalition, and that is how it sounded, and that is what we will strive for. There were also announcements made in April. Either Tusk will agree to changes in health insurance premiums, or the Third Way will leave the coalition. There is no consent of the Prime Minister, but there are public reflections of PSL politicians that Tusk does not take them into account. I believe that there is no point in continuing such a coalition as it has looked like so far. Marek Sawicki goes even further and does not rule out earlier elections.
Macron to zrobił.
Macron did it. I do not rule out that such a variant will also await the Republic of Poland. I had the impression that for half a year Donald Tusk slowly accustomed the members of the coalition government to the fact that it was Donald Tusk's government. No, this is a coalition government, and coalition partners must realise that they are responsible not only to Donald Tusk.
Partnerzy koalicyjni muszą sobie zdawać sprawę z tego.
What is Tusk's afterword? I don't want to comment on Marek Sawicki because I would have to smack him, and I don't want to do that. You ate the appetizers, you didn't choke, congratulations, but there are basically no appetizers left. No, they are still there, they are still there. They are still there, but there may not be a coalition on the 13th of December.
Nie można zgadzać się.
We cannot agree in the future to the antisocial positions that come from the Ministry of Finance, as is currently happening, because we see that the Ministry of Finance is such a centre in this government that the promise that nothing given will be taken away disappears into the mist, should the left leave the coalition. If the key programme demands of the left are not implemented, I think so.
Nic, co dane nie będzie odebrane, rozpływa się we mgle.
Moim zdaniem w tej chwili
In my opinion, at the moment, with such mental subordination, it is unlikely. Donald Tusk, as he usually does, eats his appetizers, and today he humiliates Minister of Defence Kazimierz-Kamysz.
swoje przystawki, upokarzając do tego.
Much more likely is the collapse of the Third Way, or as the malicious ones say, the third leg. And instead of focusing on Poland, the 13th December coalition, it is again focused mainly on itself. Adrian Borecki, Telewizja Republika. The prosecutor's office once again summoned Roman Giertych, a parliamentarian, lawyer and politician of the ruling party. He is to provide explanations in connection with the investigation into the siphoning off of 92 million zloty from the listed company Polnord. According to investigators, the politician also allegedly appropriated most of that amount. 4 years ago, the prosecutor's office could not bring charges because Giertych fainted during the procedure and then went to Italy. He stayed there until the parliamentary elections and his obtaining parliamentary immunity. More on this topic from Konrad Chmieła. A Member of Parliament from the Civic Coalition, Roman Giertych, was summoned as a suspect on the 7th of May, but he ignored the interrogation. He provided written explanations on this matter. Our editorial team wanted to know the suspect's position, but he did not want to talk. Good morning, Cezary Gimsz from Telewizja Republika. The prosecutor's office should ask the Speaker of the Sejm for the possibility of waiving the immunity. When in September 2020, prosecutors and the CBA entered Roman Giertych's house to detain him and bring charges against him, the attorney lost consciousness. Now he protects himself with parliamentary immunity. His case was handled by the prosecutor, Michał Ostrowski. Bodnar took control of the investigation away from me. Before, the Economic Crime Department was under my supervision, including the Giertych investigation. coalition. According to the prosecutor, Giertych is not entitled to immunity because the case dates back to the period before immunity was obtained. Giertych is accused of acting to the detriment of Polnord and the misappropriation of property in the amount of over 72 million zloty and money laundering. Because the proceedings began before immunity was obtained. The problem is that Giertych is a significant figure at the civic coalition. It's very likely he is protected by the Newman principle, meaning you are in our party, no one will dare harm you. Even more recognition should be given to the prosecutor's office in Lublin, which is still conducting these proceedings. I assume that there is pressure on the prosecutors. In 2006 to 2007, Giertych was Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of National Education in the governments of Kazimierz Marcinkiewicz and Jarosław Kaczynski. Later, he changed his political allegiance to Civic Platform. Interestingly, today, Giertych's legal knowledge is used by, among others, Donald Tusk and even the Prime Minister's son, Michał Tusk, and Radosław Sikorski. Giertych is protecting many people suspected of scams, and he himself had problems with the law while hiding from the Polish justice system in the Civic Platform. But that's not all. Today, attorney Adam Gomowa submitted a report to the regional prosecutor's office in Warsaw regarding the possibility of committing a crime by Thomas Mraz, represented by Roman Giertych. Mraz, without the permission of the prosecutor's office, publicly disseminated trial information, the veracity of which is being investigated. They concern the Justice Fund. These claims were also publicized by Roman Giertych. In my opinion, these actions are dictated solely by political issues. Today, Roman Giertych is the chairman of the Law and Justice Settlement Team. It was during the rule of law and justice that he became infamous. Therefore, it is worth asking the question about his real motivation in trying to bring the previous government to justice. Leaders of the NATO eastern flank countries met in Riga under the format known as Bucharest 9, and the number was preserved intact. While Hungary and Slovakia declined to participate, for the first time the meeting was attended by new NATO countries, Finland and Sweden. At the joint news conference after the meeting in Riga on Tuesday, Poland's President Andrzej Duda said the NATO allies from Romania, Poland and Latvia, part of the eastern flank, expressed deep concern about Russia's malign hybrid activities. In our part of Europe, there is potentially the most threatened border today, both because of the danger of a direct invasion, a direct Russian attack, but also because of the evident continuing hybrid threat from Belarus, Duda said. Indeed, our part of the North Atlantic Alliance, the eastern flank of NATO, today finds itself in this special situation, as on the one hand a bastion, and on the other hand a frontier of defence of the alliance against, unfortunately, it's sad to say, the most likely direction of aggression against an alliance state. In our part of Poland, there is potentially the most threatened border today, both because of the danger of a direct invasion, a direct Russian attack, but also because of the evident continuing hybrid threat from Belarus. But of course, also a potential attack directly from Belarus, which is theoretically a separate, independent, sovereign state. But as we know perfectly well, the Belarusian regime is practically under the complete domination of Moscow. Since Russia's full-scale invasion in 2022, allies have provided around 40 billion worth of military support to Ukraine each year. We must maintain this level of support for as long as necessary, said NATO Secretary-General Jens Stoltenberg.
Since 2014, NATO has implemented the largest reinforcement of our collective defense in a generation. We have put in place the most comprehensive defense plans since the end of the Cold War. We have more troops on higher readiness, backed by substantial naval and air power. And there is increased defense spending across the whole NATO alliance. So let there be no doubt as to our ability to defend against any adversaries. NATO has the forces, resources, capabilities, and the political will to defend every ally. Since Russia's full-scale invasion in 2022, allies have provided around 40 billion euros worth of military support to Ukraine each year. We must maintain this level of support for as long as necessary to ensure fresh funding every year. Credible long-term support sends a clear message to President Putin that he cannot wait us out.
Televizia Republika asked Gitanas Nausėda, president of Lithuania, about the border violence instigated by the Belarusian regime. The Bucharest 9 includes Bulgaria, the Czech Republic, Estonia, Hungary, Latvia, Lithuania, Poland, Romania and Slovakia.
Mr. President, are you talking also about situation with Belarusian border?
We should be honest, and we shouldn't lie to ourselves. Belarus is integral part of Russian Federation. This is not only proxy, this is just a country which lost the independence entirely in last 3-4 years. And Belarus is fully available for Russian Federation to deploy, to establish the plans, to implement those plans, and Belarus is, of course, additional source of instability, not only looking at Ukraine, but also looking at the western border, the border with European Union countries. Right now, we do not see any big threats in terms of illegal migration. At least my country does not suffer this destabilization in migration meaning. But Poland still has a lot of threats in that regard, and I think we should not be sure that Belarus will stop this kind of hybrid or other kind of efforts to destabilize the situation. This is only a matter of time. So if we have this in mind, we have to prepare our actions, what we do, what we will do in the future, and what are our long-term goals.
That's the news, but that's not all for tonight. Stay with us for the weather forecast, Alexander Viesky's interview with Romanian politician George Simiu, and Michael Racon's show Rock Racon. But from me, it's have a good night and a better tomorrow.